An entitled Karen refuses to accept the fact that I'm blind, despite the fact that I have a service dog. Things got so bad that security had to separate this entitled Karen from me because she would not leave me alone. Here's what happened. So, because my parents are more at risk from COVID, I've been going shopping alone more often during the pandemic. Yesterday was one of these cases. Grocery shopping is a more involved process for a blind person. I have to ask staff members to assist me. I also have my guide dog by the name of Gumbo inside the store with me. The dog, in itself, increases the instances of bad experiences overall. Now, during my shopping, I always get a wide array of reactions to my dog, but one, in particular, occurred towards the end of my shopping. I heard loud footsteps followed by a loud screech, saying, "That dog is so cute, can I pet him?" It was obviously a small child by the voice, so I prepared myself before responding that, no, my dog cannot be touched due to him being my guide dog. Surprisingly, the child didn't act entitled but seemed surprised and excited about a dog having a job. She asked me a few questions and then left. I honestly thought nothing of it and continued with my shopping. After I finished, I decided to stop by the food court on the way out for some lunch. So, I went and made my way across the supermarket, ordered my food, sat down, and waited. But by some cosmic gracing of bad luck, that is the exact moment that this child and their entitled parent decided to walk close by. I heard the child tell the mother about what I told her, about how my dog is working as a guide dog, that I'm blind and use him to get around. The mother isn't really saying anything, but I can sort of tell by her tone and the few words she does say that she is seeing some issue with what her daughter was told. I decided to listen in, and after the daughter finished her babbling, the mother came up to me. Now, people coming up to me is super common. I thought nothing much of it. However, the first words out of her mouth were her saying the following, "Why did you tell my daughter that you're blind?" Her tone was very harsh, very accusatory. I immediately knew what was coming, but as usual, I just put on a smile. I responded by saying, "Well, that's because I am blind. Your daughter asked me about my dog, so I explained what guide dogs are and why I use them." This entitled Karen then doubled down by saying, "You're not blind." I couldn't believe what she was saying, so I just said, "Excuse me." The way she said it completely caught me off guard. "You're not blind. My cousin is blind, so I know what a blind person is like. You shouldn't lie about that. I think you should let my daughter pet your dog, she likes dogs." I responded by saying, "Well, not all blind people are the same. Just because you know a single blind person doesn't mean you know how all blind people are. And as I already explained, your daughter can't pet my dog due to him being a seeing eye dog." This entitled Karen then started to go off on me, saying that I'm lying, claiming that there was nothing wrong with my eyes, and that I was using a phone. She then said, "Don't you dare say you're blind to me if you're gonna show me that you're not." At the same time, why would you lie about that? I told her that I'm not lying. I said, my eyes looking fine have nothing to do with anything. Not every blind person's eyes look the same. Look, you're stressing me out, and I'd rather if you just left me alone. After I said that, I was hoping that things would calm down, and she would just leave, but things only escalated from there. "My daughter wants to pet your dog. She's been well behaved all through today, and it's more than reasonable to let her play with your dog." I told her no once again and asked her why she wouldn't accept my answer. She responded by saying, "You said no using that BS excuse. You're honestly starting to really upset me. I don't know who you think you are, but I happen to work for someone at this place, and if you don't stop it, I'll get security to throw you and your fake guide dog out of here." Now, I'm sure at this point you get the picture. This went on for a good 5 minutes of her progressively getting more and more angry at the fact that I wouldn't let her daughter touch my guide dog. The daughter was actually silent through the entire thing. I don't even think she really cared that much, but this entitled Karen, however, was another story altogether. Eventually, with the argument going nowhere, she just screamed out, "That is it. I'm going to get security right now. If you're smart, you'll be gone by the time I get back, or you'll regret it." I snorted at her small fit and heard her huff and storm off. By that time, my food had arrived, so I just started eating. I didn't really believe she would go get security, but with entitled Karens like this, you simply cannot be sure what they will or won't do. About 5 minutes or so later, she returned. I heard her stomping forward in my direction from about 15 feet away, and she was raging onto a security guard. Look, that's her. You see, she's sitting there with a dog. She says it's a guide dog, but she's not blind. You have to kick her out, dogs aren't allowed in here. I sighed and removed my earbud to prepare for the incoming ordeal. A deep male voice sounded from a few feet away in front of me, and he sounded like he had just about had enough. The security guard said, Miss, is this your service dog? I said, yes, it is. He is a seeing eye dog, I'm allowed to take him in here. I have a copy of the appropriate law if you really need it. The security guard said, no, that's fine. This woman is saying you aren't disabled, though. Is that true? I responded by saying, no, she's just angry that I didn't let her daughter touch my service dog. I honestly don't know why she cares so much. The entitled Karen jumped in at that moment and called me a liar. She said, I told you I have a blind cousin, don't try to tell me I don't understand blind people because I do. I directed my attention to the security guard. And I said, look, I've tried to explain to her that one blind person doesn't represent all blind people, but she doesn't seem to get it. Could you please ask her to leave me alone? I just want to eat in peace. The security guard then asked me, so you are blind? And I said, yes, I am. He then said something that absolutely blew my mind. He asked me, can you prove that you're blind in any kind of way? I asked him, how on earth could I possibly do that, and why should I? The security guard then said, well, it's just that she is saying one thing, and you're saying another thing. I don't exactly know who to believe. But yeah, I see how proving you're blind doesn't really work. He then looked at this entitled Karen and said, why is it exactly that you think she is lying? The entitled Karen then said, are you serious right now? Are you thick in the head? Look at her eyes, they're not white or cloudy like blind people's are. She is literally looking at her phone. The security guard then looked at me, asking for my response to this accusation. I told him, maybe her cousin has those eye symptoms, but not every blind person does. Those symptoms are caused by diseases like cataracts, which I don't have. As for the phone, devices have been accessible to blind people for years. I find it surprising that she has a cousin who is blind and doesn't know that. After the entitled Karen did not take that as a good answer, I further explained, I have a basic light perception. I can detect light, and I can direct my eyes to it out of habit because that's where my hands are occupied. I then said, look, it's not my job to educate you on what you don't know, sir. Please just ask her to leave me alone. I don't care if she doesn't believe me. You don't need to stand here and mediate a back and forth as if we're going to agree somehow. I just like her to stop talking to me and leave me in peace. I'm feeling extremely harassed. I was hoping this would be the end of it. I genuinely did. But this security guard still said that he can't know for sure if I'm blind, and at this point, I was completely dumbfounded. He was using the fact that this entitled Karen had a cousin who was blind as some kind of evidence against me actually being blind. I then told the security guard, if you're not going to get this lady away from me, then I guess I'm just gonna have to leave. Thanks for failing to protect a disabled patron. I stood up to leave with my guide dog getting up to guide me. I took a few steps and suddenly felt someone grab hold of my harness tightly and pulled me to a stop. This entitled Karen had actually grabbed my harness and said, wait right there. I said I wanted you to let my daughter pet the dog, then you can leave. At this point, I was in a panic. I screamed, no, get off my harness right now. Now understand, grabbing my harness is akin to someone taking away your eyes. This entitled Karen was taking away my ability to navigate, so I panicked. This has only happened to me once before, and I panicked then too. I attempted to pull my harness handle back, all the while she was also screaming in my ear, but I wasn't listening. I was too panicked to listen to what was probably about her stupid daughter. The security guard was fumbling around fairly uselessly, as you could expect. Thankfully, a second security guard came up and said, what is going on? I then screamed at the top of my lungs, she's taking my guide dog. Help me. She won't let go. But this entitled Karen denied it all. She said, no, she's supposed to let my daughter pet her dog. The guy said, so. At this point, I assumed she was talking to the first security guard, and as you could have guessed it, the guard didn't respond. But the way the conversation went, it seemed like he non-verbally indicated that he hadn't said that. The second security guard said, "Miss, let go of that lady's dog right now, or I'll escort you out." The entitled Karen then jumped into the same act as before. "No, she is not blind. This dog isn't a real service dog. Don't just jump in." And I said, "Look, I've tried to explain to her that one blind person doesn't represent all blind people, but she doesn't seem to get it. Could you please ask her to leave me alone? I just want to eat in peace." At this point, I had calmed down slightly, so I could speak in a more coherent manner. "Please just get off of me. I want to leave. I don't feel safe. Leave me alone." Thankfully, the second security guard then finally caught on, and that's when I felt the woman's hand being forcefully removed from the harness handle. As soon as I was free, I immediately commanded Gumbo to lead me to the exit. We walked quickly away as I heard this entitled Karen screaming loudly behind me. I was still somewhat panicked, but I was able to calm myself down as I hurried towards the exit. It was so chaotic that I very nearly forgot my shopping where I left it at customer services. I left, I called a taxi, and I came home. It has really stuck with me for the last couple of days, but the worst part is that these types of interactions are an almost daily occurrence. Blind people are the targets of constant harassment in public, and this woman just went farther than she should have by physically assaulting me and harassing me. I know I could have gotten her arrested, but honestly, I was just so panicked I wanted to get out of that situation as soon as possible. So why am I telling this story? In short, I wanted to spread awareness. It's important for people to know more about the blind experience and what blind people have to deal with. It's also super important to say if you're ever a witness to a situation like I just described, intervene. Had the second guard not stepped in and intervened, the situation would have been a lot worse. This story is crazy to me. I honestly can't believe that this person had to deal with that. The fact that someone would actually act like this towards a blind person, as if they already don't have a big disadvantage in life, is just disgusting, and I am utterly shocked that this original poster didn't have this lady arrested. If I were them, I would call more security and try to get that first security guard fired. They tried to force this blind person to prove that they were blind. How disgusting and toxic is that? Hopefully, this original poster never has to deal with anything like this again, because this type of treatment, all because you're blind, is absolutely unacceptable. My boyfriend is actively gaslighting me, and honestly, I'm getting sick of it, and I don't know what to do. So, I'm a 24-year-old female, and my boyfriend is 25. We have been together for 2 years, and everything is really good between us. I never see anything that's really wrong in our relationship until I dig into it and really start to think about things. For me, I am an overthinker. My last relationship did not end well, and even though my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years, I still have some minor trust issues. So months ago, when we first started dating, my boyfriend was holding his phone, and I glanced over and saw that he had a text message from one of his ex-girlfriends. After seeing this, it put me in a very bad mood pretty much for the rest of the night. Eventually, he noticed and asked what was wrong, and after some time, I told him what I saw. We talked it out, I started crying, and he reassured me and calmly talked about it. He said that they are just on friendly terms, no big deal. I told him just to tell me about it, that I promise I will be more upset if he didn't tell me and I suspected something than for him to just straight up tell me. He then said that he shouldn't have to report to me about everyone he talks to. I agreed and told him that's not what I meant, but to just be open about this situation. Months go by, and everything is okay again. But then, a couple of months ago, almost the same thing happened. We were out drinking with friends, and someone calls him, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. He says it's just a spam phone call. Well, after we woke up the next morning, he tells me his other ex texted him and wanted me and him to go out the night before and go drinking with her friends, but he didn't respond until that day. I had no bad reaction to him telling me this, but a couple of days later, I put 2 and 2 together and realized it was her who called him at 11 o'clock. So weeks go by, and we started drinking, and I bravely, just jokingly, brought this up. I said, I know you didn't want to tell me because it would have ruined my night, but why couldn't you just tell me that it was her instead of lying to me, or say it's no one instead of just saying that it's spam? After that, we got into a fight, which involved both of us yelling and me crying. Once again, he tells me I'm gaslighting him and that since I had a bad reaction before, he isn't going to tell me these things. I told him I will never bring it up again. I keep telling this man that it will bother me more when he doesn't tell me things. So here we are today, and nothing is wrong. But yesterday, he said the same thing randomly. I can't even remember what we were talking about, neither of us were upset, and it was something random that we said as we were walking around the house. He said that he won't tell me something if he thinks I'll have a bad reaction to it. My problem is, I feel like we are partners. We talk about being together for a long time, including starting a family and living our own life together. This has now led me to the idea, as well as the question, of what else is he hiding from me? Can he be talking to random girls or even girls that he knows, and he won't even tell me? When is enough? How do I tell him again and again that I need him to talk to me and that I won't get upset? I know that I won't get upset because he is being honest and coming to me and talking to me about it. It is all so confusing, and I'm just not sure what to do. It seems like the OP is trying to manifest that their boyfriend is cheating on them when I don't think there's any evidence to really suggest that. It seems like you're trying to control things to an extent that you have zero control over. And from the sounds of it, it doesn't really sound like he's gaslighting you, to be honest. I feel like you're kind of overreacting just a little bit, in my opinion. I can understand that there's some kind of insecurity between you and your boyfriend, and obviously, you don't want him to leave you. But it seems like you're starting to toe the line between actually being worried about something that's actually going wrong, as opposed to just being suspicious of something going wrong. I think if anything, maybe read the messages themselves or at least request to see what he's texting about to at least absolve some of the anxiety you have towards the situation. I mean, honestly, just because he's texting his ex does not mean he's going to try and get with them. So unless there are any signs that he might be going behind your back or doing things that are nefarious, I just don't think it would be healthy to try and jump on this train of, oh no, he's definitely cheating on me, because that's not healthy, and that's not going to help anybody. My neighbor rings my doorbell at least twice a day, and it's starting to drive me nuts. I'm at my wit's end, and I simply don't know what to do. So just a little bit of context, it's just me and my girlfriend living in this house that we bought about 4 months ago. We have a neighbor who's very friendly and came to introduce himself and his wife. At the time, I thought nothing of it, I honestly thought it was just a friendly gesture. But pretty soon, he started coming over every single day. Then he started to ring my doorbell a total of 4 times a day. At this point, it has now been like this for months, where he frantically rings my doorbell about 4 to 5 times in a row, and he does this about 2 to 3 times a day. I will even catch him sometimes peeking in my window to see if I'm in the living room. Sometimes he'll also sit on my porch and just talk about nonsense that doesn't need to be discussed. I don't even respond to half of the things that he says sometimes, and I just give him a casual, lazy response of saying I don't want to be bothered by this garbage, something subtle enough that anyone with a clear mind would be able to pick up on. But this guy just doesn't seem to get it. I don't even answer the door sometimes, and I try to make up excuses, explaining to him, whether in the moment or later, that maybe I was cleaning or something like that. But he literally doesn't get the clue that I'm busy or I want to be left alone. I should also note that he suffered a terrible car accident that ruined some of his mental abilities to some degree, as he repeats himself a lot in a conversation. I wonder sometimes if it affects his short-term memory and he forgets he even came over to visit me. But his wife lets him do this without any issue and doesn't even say anything to him, like, do you not realize how invasive this behavior is? But to his credit, he has been very kind in some ways, like bringing over some fresh fruits and some vegetables from his garden. He has also referred me to an excellent local doctor and hooked me up with a landscaper to help me take care of my garden. But it seems to me that he only does this as some premise for his own personal entertainment, and at this point, I simply can't take it anymore. I just want my privacy back. I'm at the point where I'm actually fantasizing about how I want to absolutely explode my built-up frustration on this guy the next time he comes to my house to disturb me. But I also don't want to make an enemy of someone who's across the street and clearly mentally unstable. And at this point, I'm unsure exactly of what to say because he just seems so unaware of anything even surrounding him. Please, how can I go about addressing this? What should I do? Having a bad neighbor is literally a nightmare, so I empathize with this person completely. And worst of all, they're invading your privacy and looking through your windows. I think I would lose my mind if someone was doing that to me. It sounds like this guy just simply doesn't get it, but maybe his wife will. If I were in your shoes, I would go talk to the wife. I would say, hey, I appreciate you coming by, but you're starting to cause problems in my life. This might be a good way for her to step in and say, okay, we need to leave them alone because this behavior is not appropriate. It's not okay for someone to come up to your house and ring your doorbell multiple times throughout the day just to get your attention. It's really disturbing, and honestly, it's a little bit creepy. Another idea that I had is possibly building a fence or some kind of barrier between you and your neighbor. You could make it very clear in a passive-aggressive way that no, I don't want visitors and no, I don't want you at my house. I think ultimately though, you do need to have this conversation with them. You need to make it very clear that, hey, this is inappropriate, and I don't like this. Maybe you're right, maybe this guy just isn't completely there or, worst of all, he might not care altogether, which is not fair for you. Regardless, you need to put your foot down and say, no more. Please get off of my property and stop coming over every single day. You have tried to be subtle, you've tried to be nice, but now it's time to be mean because this is your privacy we're talking about, and these neighbors are clearly violating that. And in my opinion, you should not have to deal with that. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Have you ever had a neighbor like this that was so obnoxious that you just didn't know what to do? Let us know down below. My girlfriend gives me the silent treatment after a fight, and then yells at me if I try to break that silence. And now I honestly don't know what to do. My girlfriend used to do this quite a bit. In fact, every time we fought. And eventually, I asked her to stop because that stonewalling behavior gave me anxiety and made me question my self-worth. She stopped, and for a few months, we would solve problems in a different way. We would do things together and not against each other. She usually needs some time to cool down after an argument, but now she's back to doing what she used to do. Before we fought last night about something stupid, and the entire day she's been ignoring me and avoiding me ever since this morning. And it is now 8 p.m. For example, if I go to one room, she moves to the other, and this just continues to repeat over and over again. And the few times that I've tried talking to her and asking her to talk to me and stop because she was getting back to that behavior that made me anxious and really hurt my feelings, she would end up yelling at me to leave her alone, telling me that she doesn't care if this is harmful for the relationship. She also said she's leaving today because she doesn't want to be here and doesn't want to see me. As a side note, she doesn't technically live with me but was spending time with me until Wednesday at my house. The way she spoke to me felt completely humiliating and demeaning. I honestly thought we left this in the past and that we moved on from this type of behavior, but now she has me questioning everything. We even agreed months ago that if she was upset about something, she would approach me about the subject in a calm manner, and we would discuss it. I just don't understand why she's drastically come back to doing this really rude and painful behavior. This is all so confusing, and I honestly don't know what to do. This is really toxic behavior. If my significant other treated me like that, especially after explaining to her in detail why this behavior hurts my feelings so much, it makes you feel anxious, it questions your self-worth as a human being. It does not feel good. But in this instance, it's really important to note that she's choosing to do it anyways. Your significant other is doing the one thing that she knows will hurt you the most, and she's doing it repeatedly. Like she even said she doesn't care if this damages the relationship. That is super toxic and very immature. If that happened to me, that would make me question if she even cared about me. I can understand if this is someone's automatic response when it comes to dealing with confrontation or anything along those lines. But to obviously and very clearly choose to do it still, even after your partner said, hey, this really hurts my feelings, is unbelievably toxic and is not something that's going to lead to a healthy relationship. It is incredibly immature, and she's just trying to hurt you, which is really not fair for you. I think the one benefit here is that she doesn't live with you because otherwise, this would be every waking moment. It's bad enough that it seems like she holds grudges over the dumbest things, and any kind of argument leads to her stonewalling you out of her life. But maybe with her leaving Wednesday, this can give you some time to reflect on what happened and try and make amends and make up to her in some way. I think, regardless of what you do, a conversation needs to be had about this. You need to re-explain to her that this is really hurtful behavior and it is not cohesive to a healthy relationship. Because otherwise, this is just gonna repeat in the future, and you're just gonna feel like garbage all over again, and you definitely do not deserve that. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications to finish listening to all the stories. Use the playlist at the top of the description.